I've been staring at it for 3 days now. The eye in the darkness, unblinking, watching me through the crack in my ceiling that wasn't there before. At first I thought it was just a strange shadow, a trick of the light, but shadows don't follow you. Shadows don't blink.
Hello? Is anyone there? I can see you watching me.
My voice echoed through the empty apartment. No response came from the crack, just that unrelenting stare. I hadn't slept properly since I first noticed it. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel it studying me, learning me. The crack had appeared suddenly after that strange thunderstorm last week, the one where the lightning was purple and the rain fell upward.
This is ridiculous. I'm losing my mind over a shadow.
I grabbed my phone and took a picture of the ceiling, hoping to prove to myself it was nothing. But when I checked the image, my blood ran cold. The crack was there, perfectly captured, but where the eye should have been was just a smudge of darkness, deeper than the rest of the image. As if something had reached through my phone and erased itself.
What the hell?
I called my friend that evening. I needed someone else to see it, to confirm I wasn't going crazy.
Hey, can you come over? There's something weird in my apartment I need you to look at.
Is this another one of your pranks? Because the last time I came over for an emergency, you just wanted help moving your couch.
No, I'm serious. There's something in my ceiling. I think it's watching me.
Have you been sleeping? You sound exhausted.
Just come over, please.
She arrived an hour later. I hadn't moved from my spot on the couch. My eyes fixed on the ceiling crack. It had grown slightly, now about 6 inches long, with that same dark center that somehow seemed both empty and occupied at the same time.
Okay, I'm here. Where's this thing you're so freaked out about?
Look up there, in the ceiling. Do you see it?
I pointed to the crack. She followed my finger and stared for a long moment.
I see a crack. You should probably call your landlord about that.
No, inside the crack. There's an eye. It's watching us right now.
I don't see anything except a ceiling crack. Maybe you're just tired? When was the last time you slept properly?
I felt a chill run down my spine. How could she not see it? The eye was there, wider now, as if it had opened further at her presence. I could see the details more clearly. The iris was a deep violet color with flecks of something that looked like stars.
You really don't see it? It's right there staring at us.
Look, I'm worried about you. You're pale, you've got bags under your eyes. Let me make you some tea, and maybe you should call your doctor tomorrow.
She walked to the kitchen, but I couldn't take my eyes off the crack. As she left my side, I swear the eye shifted slightly, following her movement. Then, almost imperceptibly, it winked at me.
It just winked. It knows we're talking about it.
That's it, I'm calling your brother. You need help.
She stayed for another hour, making me tea I didn't drink, watching me with concern as I refused to look away from the ceiling. Eventually she left, promising to check on me tomorrow. The moment the door closed behind her, the crack widened another inch, and I heard it. A soft, wet sound, like lips parting.
What do you want from me?
No answer came, but that night, I dreamed. I dreamed I was floating in an endless void, surrounded by stars that weren't stars, but eyes, countless violet eyes, all watching me. And in the distance, a massive shape moved through the darkness, something so vast, I could only perceive parts of it at once. When I woke up, gasping, the crack had doubled in size. Day 4. I haven't left my apartment. I barely moved from this spot. The crack now spans half my ceiling, and the eye has grown proportionally. I can see now that it's not human. The pupil is wrong, vertical like a cat's, but with strange geometrical patterns shifting within it. Sometimes, when I stare long enough, I see landscapes in there, alien worlds with impossible architecture, and skies filled with those same violet eyes.
I know you can hear me. Please just tell me what you want.
My phone rang, startling me. It was her again.
I'm outside your door. Let me in. Your brother's with me.
I didn't want to look away from the eye, but I shuffled to the door, keeping my head tilted up. I let them in and immediately returned to my vigil.
Jesus, you look terrible. What's going on?
It's gotten bigger. Can't you see it? The crack, the eye?
What eye? That's a water stain. Your ceiling is leaking.
I whipped my head toward him in disbelief.
A water stain? It's an eye. It's watching us right now.
We're taking you to the hospital. This isn't normal.
As they tried to pull me away, the crack suddenly spread across the entire ceiling with a sound like tearing paper. Both of them froze, finally seeing what I had been seeing all along.
What the hell is that?
The ceiling is moving.
The eye was now enormous, filling the entire ceiling. The pupil dilated, and from within it, something began to emerge. A long, thin appendage that looked like a finger, but was jointed in all the wrong places.
I told you it was real.
We need to get out of here, now.
The finger thing extended further, reaching down toward us. My brother grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door, but I couldn't look away. The finger touched the floor, and then another emerged beside it, and another, until 5 of them were pressing against my living room floor.
Move, now.
We ran into the hallway of my apartment building, slamming the door behind us. We could hear a wet, slithering sound from inside.
What is that thing?
It's been watching me for days. I think it's coming through.
We made it to my brother's car, but as we pulled away, I looked back at my apartment building. Every window was dark, except mine, which glowed with an unnatural violet light. And in that light, I could see shadows moving. Not just one, but many, as if a crowd of something was filling my small apartment.
We're going to the hospital, and then I'm calling the police.
The police can't help with this.
At the hospital, they sedated me, despite my protests. The doctors spoke in hushed tones about stress-induced hallucinations, about how grief can manifest in strange ways. They didn't believe me about the eye, even when I showed them the pictures on my phone, pictures that now showed nothing but a normal ceiling. I woke up the next morning in a hospital bed. My brother was asleep in a chair beside me, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Then I noticed it, a tiny crack in the ceiling tile directly above my bed. And within it, that familiar violet gleam.
No. It followed me.
My brother stirred at the sound of my voice.
You're awake. How are you feeling?
It's here. Look up.
He glanced up and then back at me with concern.
There's nothing there. The doctor said you might still be experiencing hallucinations. They want to keep you for observation.
But I knew what I saw. And worse, I knew it saw me. Throughout the day, doctors came and went. They asked me questions about my mental state, about any history of illness in my family. All the while, the crack grew slowly, the eye watching their every move with what I could only describe as amusement. That night, after everyone had gone and the hospital had quieted, the crack spread across the entire ceiling of my room. The eye blinked slowly, and then that voice came, not through my ears, but directly into my mind.
We have been watching your kind for so long, through the thin places between worlds. You are the first to see us watching, the first to look back.
What are you?
We are the watchers. We observe. We learn. We wait. And now we come through.
Why me? Why my apartment?
The storm weakened the barrier. Your awareness strengthened the connection. You called to us without knowing.
The ceiling began to bulge downward, the material stretching like skin. I tried to reach for the call button, but my body wouldn't respond. I was paralyzed, able only to watch as the ceiling split open and those long, wrong fingers reached through again, followed by a hand that bent at impossible angles, and then an arm, covered in what looked like eyes. Dozens of tiny violet eyes blinking independently of each other.
We have chosen you to be the first, the doorway.
The first what? Doorway to where?
The first to join us, the doorway between worlds.
More arms emerged, reaching for me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The arms wrapped around me, their touch cold and slick like wet leather. They began to pull me upward, toward the opening in the ceiling. Just as my head was about to pass through the rift, the hospital room door burst open. A security guard stood there, his eyes widening at the scene before him. The arms retreated instantly, pulling back into the ceiling. The crack sealed itself with a sound like a sigh, leaving only a small line visible. The paralysis left my body, and I fell back onto the bed, gasping.
You saw it. Tell me you saw it.
But the guard was staring at me with horror, not at the ceiling.
Sir, why are you standing on your bed? And what have you done to your arms?
I looked down at my arms and screamed. My skin was covered in tiny cuts, each one in the shape of a small eye, and they were all open, all blinking up at me with tiny violet pupils. They released me a week later, convinced I had experienced a psychotic episode and self-harm during it. The cuts on my arms had healed into strange, eye-shaped scars that the doctors attributed to pattern cutting, a form of self-injury. My brother took me to his home, unwilling to let me return to my apartment, which had been found completely normal by the police who checked it. But I know the truth. The Watchers are patient. They found me once, and they'll find me again. Sometimes I catch glimpses of them. In the reflection of a window, in the dark corner of a room, in the shadows that stretch too long at sunset. And at night, when everyone is asleep, I hear that voice again.
We are still watching. We are still waiting. You are still our doorway.
Last night, I found a small crack in my brother's bathroom mirror. Within it, that familiar violet gleam. I should tell someone, warn them, but instead, I find myself staring into it for hours, watching it grow. And sometimes, I catch myself reaching toward it, my fingers extending to touch the glass, to widen the crack just a little more.
I see you watching, and now I'm helping you come through.
The eye in the void blinks in approval, and somewhere deep inside me, something that is no longer entirely human blinks back.